Welcome, everybody. Oh, we're Instagramming.
How are you, Jim?
I'm doing well.
Here we go.
Make sure to follow Lena's Instagram. This show, Lena knows I've been like just gushing about this show since day one. It's so strong, so powerful. Just bringing it all together. I know it's a lot of work to get a TV show on the air. This is a little different, I think, than Showtime's maybe done in the past. But talk about it a little bit and just getting it off the ground.
I mean, I think for me, it really always starts with the script. You know, I really was watching a lot of Chicago news stories and living in LA at the time and trying to be a television writer. And I was just really reading a lot of Baldwin as well and a lot of Langston Hughes. And I was just really blown away by the way they told our story and how they always continued to see the God in us. And I really wanted to do something similar because I really know the people of Chicago and I see them being reported on, but they're reported on by foreigners, people that don't know the city, people that don't know what it's like to live and work and play and fall in love there. So I just decided to sort of figure out these characters and we wrote it. We did a first pilot, which we thought was okay, but it could have been stronger. And luckily, Showtime stayed with me. And then we got Rick Famuyiwa to come in. We got this amazing cast, and they gave us another strike at it, which is very rare in television. But we really feel like we hit it out of the park, and we're really grateful to people that are rocking with us and watching the show. It is very unique. It's a unique way to look at Black people. It's a unique way to see us because we're really just being. We're not tap dancing. We're not trying to get out the hood. We're not rapping or selling drugs, all that kind of stuff.
What's the matter with rapping?
Yeah. I just feel like that's a very comfortable role that white folks are used to seeing us in, and I'm going to challenge them and us as well. Nothing wrong with rapping, but you a different kind of rapper. You rapping about the light and,
I'm just playing.
All that, you know. Maybe we get some conscious rapping, you know.
Season two.
Oh, Lord.
No rapping, man.
Cut to Chance, you know. Enter Chance, stage left.
Jacob and Jason, do you guys know what you were signing up for? Because I feel like both of your characters have gone through such amazing journeys, and I'm already dying to see the finale next weekend, so I'm sure it's going to be even better. But talk about just knowing what you were getting yourself into.
Well, I mean, it's already a blessing when you know that somebody is authentically from somewhere and they're executive producing it and they're writing it, and then you got Common also jumping in and doing the same thing. It's a wave that you know you got to get on the top of. You know what I mean? Because it's not going to be one of those things that people are like, well, it's all right. You know, I knew it was going to be fire. You know what I mean? So I was like, once I bring my little pizzazz to it, it's
right.
I mean? So I was like, you know. Uh-huh. But as you see the ingredients get added into it, you know what I mean? Like, it was something that you were like, I gotta be a part of this. You know what I mean? It was a blessing to be a part of it. So
it was a blessing to have him.
Yeah, I don't think I would have been a part of it. It wasn't no like real Chicago people behind the project. You know what I mean? Lena, like in common, just being from Chicago. I'm from Milwaukee, which is not far, but it's still, you know, not Chicago. Yeah, Midwest. You know what I'm saying? Hello. But you know, I was just like, you know, this is something for the culture, and this is something, a role that I wouldn't necessarily I've been like running away from, but it's just been a role where I just knew I could always do and I could step into it. Mm-hmm. But I've always tried to do other things just to like, you know, diversify myself and broaden my horizon as an actor. But I was like, let me go home and let me really like represent somebody from my type of neighborhood and go through some really relatable situations. And I really feel like, you know, I'm really just showing a different color just on my acting tip, and then just like we're just giving Chicago a real voice. It's really dope. Yeah.
Common, what was important to you about Chicago and how it was portrayed in the show?
Well, I think something Jacob said that was really poignant to me was like, I understood why he, at one point, because I felt the same way, wanted to just try diverse roles that were further away from what, you know, I didn't want to play a dude from Chicago, right? But mostly that happens because it was people writing who didn't know what a dude from Chicago would be like, or just a Black person, just a doctor. They just wouldn't write it a full human being in that way. Right. So I think, you know, we blessed to have these incredible actors, but I think it's just a testament to how great Lena has created these characters, because yeah, you want to play like I wanted to be a part of the show because it's just the writing is so great and the characters have dimensions to it. So for me, like coming on, we came on as producers, Freedom Road, Derek and I, and our team, because we saw that this vision was coming from a visionary who wanted to tell stories about black life that people have never seen. And as she said, it's just a natural thing and I feel like those stories are some of the most important stories we can tell in America today, because those are the things that break racial barriers. They bring you into our living rooms or into our churches or into our block club parties, and it's like, damn, we people just like y'all. You know, it's kind of other nationalities get to see black people in a new way, and that's why I wanted to be a part of this. And you know, I always feel like when you work with a visionary, a talented visionary, that's when you can get across real thoughts. That's why we all love Steven Spielberg, or we all love Martin Scorsese, or you know, Lena is a visionary. She knew what the vision is. She comes from that, and she creates that. And that's why I want to be a part of it. I want to work with dope people.
Well, I think we've got some clips we're going to roll through, and then Lena's going to talk about some stuff in them. But let's roll the first clip.
Cool. That moment of Cookie running away, which was so funny because I was like, it was really written in the script in that way, and I'm grateful to Rick for capturing it. But if you think about it, he almost looks like a runaway slave. You know what I'm saying? It's like we haven't stopped running. We're still, even the way he's caught, you know, and the way I love that Rick, because I think the way I was trying to do it was like, you know, it's like he's full of life and he's doing this thing, and the next thing you know, like he's sort of on the run, and he's even the way he dips into like the alley and these different things, which feels very much like the Underground Railroad, and him trying to disguise himself, and then you see the words to serve and protect. Ooh. On the car door, and it's about who are the police serving, who are they protecting, who are they protecting that quote unquote community from, and it's that thing of, you know, we go from chains to handcuffs. So, you know, it really did have a deeper meaning for me. I think especially in terms of what I was like burying myself in and thinking about, and just showing how not much has changed. You know, we're still running. And I have this theory of that black people are always out of breath. We can never rest. And that's the image I see when I see Coogie running. And then obviously you get to know who he is. And so it's the element of taking the imagery of a little black boy in the backseat of a cop car, but then getting to know who he is and really humanizing.
Well, and I love there's right at the very end there is a shot of the neighbors kind
Absolutely.
of all gathering, and that was so smart because it isn't just about him.
Right. No, there's an element of like, you know, and I know, you know, look, because I'm from Chicago and that's where the show takes place. But even if you're not, I mean, you could be in any city. I think there's an element of when you see, and I do it myself when I'm driving and I see cops like harassing a young black person. I see myself in that person. I think about what's going through their heads, what's happening, and also the powerlessness you feel as a person who looks like them. You can't protect them. There's nothing you can do for them because of the dynamics in which we live.
Yeah, and you also get to see the effect, that shot even in itself, you see the effect of how it affects our families.
Right.
Like what a mother who's raising their son has to deal with in the battle of seeing their son being handcuffed or being treated by the police the way young black people are treated, black and brown people. Mm-hmm. And you see young men who have to see that, young kids who like, see this is the way they treat us, so you automatically have an opposition to them just because the way you being treated, and you seeing that as a kid. So us showing that in the environment is really kind of connecting how this affects all our families, all aspects of our family.
Right.
All right, let's go to the next clip.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because initially I wanted that scene, I think because I was maybe like being a little too protective over Emmett. Initially, what happens in an original draft is that he loses Emmett Jr. at the park. And in that moment, he kind of realizes, like, obviously the fear that goes through your body when, you know, you lose your kid for like 2 seconds. But we talked about making it a little bit more active for him, and him looking, you know, having the frustration of going to the house, which, by the way, I don't know if that's just a Chicago thing, or if that's a real thing, but like, you know, there's like women who be having kids at the houses and like whatever. That was like, you know, I don't know if that's just Chicago, but like that's the thing that, you know, my mom used to do with me, and, you know, all that kind of stuff. So which is weird. It's like daycare. What's that? You're at somebody's house, as your mom knows. So that was just something like, I sort of wanted to show like what daycare looks like in Chicago, and also that frustration is that was that one chick in the neighborhood that everybody goes to, and like and her place being overcrowded, and that element of seeing cats, in the streets that's just got money from who knows what, and just like vibing and chilling, and always dress fly, and they just like life seems grand, and so we kind of really wanted to sandwich Jacob's Emmett's very difficult decision in between those two things of not being able to get daycare, seeing cats that he would probably be kicking it with if he didn't have this kid, and him having that moment of frustration. Because the thing is, parenting is difficult when you're of age. When you're in your late teens and living at home with your mom and goofing around, it feels claustrophobic. And so we really wanted Emmett to feel like he was trapped. Because that's how single mothers feel like every single day. So we really wanted to put him in those shoes of what happens when there's no one to hand the baby off to, and you have to sit in it. But also we wanted him to understand how much that baby needs him, and how much he needs the baby. So I was really happy with where we landed with that decision, and I think Jacob obviously really he sells it, and I think it's beautiful, and it's beautiful to watch, and it's hard to watch, but it's very human. And those are the things that we're really going for on the show. Are things like 1 minute you're rooting for somebody, then you're mad at them, but then you kind of settle into this place of, they're just human, which I'm really always happy about.
Yeah. That was just thinking about it, just doing that scene that day was just like, that was crazy. I think I was like maybe the second or third week we were filming, and that's when I had met the baby during the first episode, but we had a little time apart, and I had seen him again, and he was always just like crying. Like he was always crying. He really wanted his real dad. Like every time his real dad passed him off, he'd just be crying, and like part of me was really frustrated. Like, man, like can you just stop? Like I'm a nice guy. Like I'm really nice. I'm patting him on the back. I'm doing everything I can. So like that really I would never leave a baby at a party, but. Let's just get that straight. But it was just it helped me think about it. Like even his crying, it helped me get into this frustrating place, and just knowing if my mom or my pops ever left me at a park when I was younger, if they ever told that would break my heart. So just getting into that emotion when I picked him up and just kissed him and loved him to death. That was I don't know. It was a deep moment for me because it was
just tell him you cried afterwards.
Just
tell him the truth, Jake.
I did.
You out there.
I went to the trailer. I didn't want anybody to know.
Hey, but I think what I love about that scene too is like one of the realest things you can get out of like me being a father. When I first realized I was gonna have a child, it was a fear, And then I'm bucking up like I gotta be a father, and then I'm like, dealing with a lot of emotions if me and the mom are not working out, so like Jacob kind of covered all that in that scene. It was what I really love about it is, and what I love about the show is what Lena said is the real humanity. It's not like just because we showing black life don't mean we trying to show us as perfect either. And the fact that you see this young man like, I want to do good, and then he angry at his baby, that's real. Like a parent you can be like mad because you're in this situation, and obviously we all know we've had parents that take it out on us, but fortunately he didn't do that. But it's still he showed the anger, he showed the fear, he showed I got to get myself together. He went out and had that moment, and then got himself together. And I think just to me like the truth that we getting out of these actors and in the story is what I really appreciate. So, man, that was great work, bro. You did that in one scene.
Really
Thank you.
Yeah.
Really dope.
Well, and I have to say, I love the fact this is a writer's choice that he realizes this on his own.
Right.
It's not a lesson he has to learn through another way, whether it's like losing the baby or something. So I thought that was just brilliant that it finally just clicks. You see it click.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay. Who likes the character of Papa in the show? I love Papa so much. I think you guys are gonna like this next clip.
Papa, my favorite character.
Oh my god.
My favorite character. As I watch the show.
Papa.
So you're gonna like this next clip.
I think for us, like we love being able to take that breather, with them. I think, but even in the midst of that, Kevin's trying to figure out the whole situation about the gun and all that kind of stuff with Jake. I think that's what we really try to show is that kids in Chicago are kids, but they're exposed to so many things, maybe earlier than they should be, and they kind of feel like young adults. And I think that's the thing we always try to make clear. And also, too, a lot of their stuff is my stuff as a kid. I was always cursing and, like, you know, being a ham and doing all that kind of stuff. But I think it's a way, it's a form of escape, you know, for them to kind of be little show-offs and be flirting and all that kind of stuff. But I think the kids really bring a wonderful levity and a real groundedness to the show in a way that, you know, all the other characters sort of can't, because they come with these responsibilities and things like that. But the kids are just such a great relief. Like, we love hanging out with them. We love when we're shooting with those guys, because they just really have a magic. And obviously, Papa is a Chicago kid, Jake's a Chicago kid. So they just have that natural Chicago swag that you can't fake.
Who decided on the dance, like what he actually would do?
That was all Shimon. His real name is Shimon, who plays Papa. He sort of does his own thing. We write things, and then he's like, okay, got it. And he just sort of runs. And you know, some of the stuff, we can't remember if it was a line or something he actually said. Oftentimes, I'm totally eavesdropping on those kids and ear hustling a lot. So I try to pull from what they're actually saying, what they're talking about. But Shimon is like his own, he literally has like a little fan club. People tweet about him and like, he's a star and this and that, and he loves it. He's so great. He's amazing.
Well, I love that last shot of Kevin, because you just see that smile finally break, and it's just like that little bit of joy in this not so joyous world all the time.
Alex Hibbert is obviously phenomenal. We saw him for the first time in Moonlight. Obviously, he pops up at the end of Black Panther. But, you know, he's like, I think, all of our little brother, you know what I mean? And I feel like me, Barry, and Ryan just look at him and see a star. You know, he brings so much to it. You know, he has a lot of, it was hard to, even when I wrote that character, I knew the kid had to have a lot of layers and had to be able to embody the role in such a way that, again, you can't force. And Alex is just such a unique talent, and he just has a look on his face that it just captures what it means to be a young black boy.
Yeah, it's crazy though, because when I see Alex, I see myself when I was young. You know, and I think that's the most important thing about having this sort of youth on TV, the fact that, like, they're breaking open a whole different door for people. You know, like, because I grew up in New Orleans and I have never, ever, ever seen myself on TV. You know what I mean? Like, I would pretend like I was Martin Lawrence, like, you know, like I was one of the bad boys. We'll go outside and shoot at each other. And, you know what I mean? And you try to find this sort of, this childlike being that wants to come out, but you have all these obligations and situations that keep making you grow up a lot faster than you have to. You know what I mean? So it's a beautiful thing to be able to see that on TV and see why kids are growing up so fast. But Alex is hands down my favorite person to work with. No offense, but he is great. He's just great because he keeps it fresh, and he reminds me why I do this every day. You know what I mean? He can help me keep a smile on my face, and he's like dancing in between takes, and he's dope. He's dope.
Lena, I can't remember if you told me the street party episode was your favorite episode.
Yeah, the block party episode. Yeah, just because I think that there was so much that, to me, that episode really represents the Chicago I know, even down to the, you know, gunshots in the distance at the end. You know, it's like we live, we laugh, we love, we look out for each other, we have fun together, and that really is how my neighborhood felt. You know, very much like a little community. If you were out doing something in the street you weren't supposed to be doing, your neighbor would tell your parents if they saw you. You know, sort of that kind of village thing that I really feel like we captured it in that episode.
Yeah, well, let's watch a clip from that, because there's a lot going on at that block party.
Oh yeah, true. There's a lot going on. Yeah, I mean, I think we knew we had to have some, you know, hard conversations in that episode, but we wanted to cloud it with, you know, the block party and kind of have a reason for everybody to be in the same place at the same time. I mean, I think Natare and Jason do a wonderful job with that scene, which everybody sort of had been waiting, you know, for that moment to come, and to show the kind of man that, you know, Brandon is, in terms of, like, you know, him speaking his piece and looking him dead in the eye, and also being protective of his sort of like new pseudo little brother, and Kevin. And I think Ronnie is very vulnerable in that scene as well. Like, he's very honest, and you can see the pain in his eyes. Like, he's grieving as well, and the thing that he did to sort of, you know, sort of fix things ended up breaking Brandon's world as well as his mother's, Laverne's as well. And then obviously in the thing about, Jerica, that thing of running into an ex at the not the best time and discovering something you don't want to know is just really difficult. But we thought it was we put Brandon through it. Sorry, Jason, but like, we felt like that was where both of those worlds would come together, and it makes for really good drama.
And I think like what I really love with the Block Club is like Block Club Party is like, in reality, you could be at war with certain people, but at that experience, you kind of let things go. It's
Right.
grandmothers there, it's children there.
Right.
It's like, it's a time where the community really does come together, because usually the Block Club parties was put together by the older people from the block. So it was like a lot of respect given at the Block Club, and it's like, damn, we was born with these guys, but
Not
we can't
today.
do that today. So that scene in that episode warms my heart, because it just really reminds me of just letting go of all the stuff that you've been through, and just like, it's Chicago. I mean, many cities have block clubs, but it's just letting go. So I love that. But what happened?
Yeah, I think for me it was besides the Jericho situation, it was a real huge moment of relief for me. You know what I mean? Even from the black community, because people watch the TV show and be like, Brandon gonna kill him? He gonna kill him, son. I'm telling you. Tell me if you gonna kill him, son. He deserves to get shot, dog. I'm telling you. You know what I mean? And part of you really feel like I'm driven towards this murder. You know what I mean? I'm driven to keep this sort of domino rally effect that holds the hood down. I'm just driven that way by everybody, and everybody subconsciously wants something to happen to Ronnie. And I feel like it just kept building up in Brandon and building up and building up and building up. So to have that moment, it said a lot about Brandon, but it also said a lot about how we could just handle situations and how we could choose to exhale. You know what I mean? And be like, look, this is what it is. You cross the line again, of course, we're going to bust your ass. But, it takes us to come together as a community and take these steps together. You know what I mean? Sometimes you got to look somebody in the eye. Sometimes you got to let a few tears out. But I think that's what we are trying to stand for as a whole and as a community.
Right, and
So
the
I
trauma
think
that comes with it. I mean, but that's the thing about black communities is like, true. I mean, the ugly truth is that sometimes, the culprit is each other.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, and there's this element of having to live in a community with someone that the justice is not being served.
Right.
Where you got to live with the man who killed your brother, and how traumatic that is in a community where it's like nobody cares when white folk kill us, but nobody cares when we kill each other either. So it's that element of who is valuing our lives? What do they really mean?
Right.
And I think we're just sort of in this sort of like this community where we want to love each other, but sometimes we want to kill each other. Sometimes we hate each other, and we're in this very interesting place where if we don't love on each other, though, if we don't hold each other up, then who will? Again, it's like if we don't tell our story, somebody else gonna tell it and get it wrong.
Right.
So I think it's really important about how we survive, and everybody has different survival mechanisms, and everybody grieves differently. I mean, you really get to watch Brandon grieve, go through all those emotions, anger, frustration, sadness, and I love that when he has the opportunity to kill the person that killed his brother, he chooses not to, and I think it really says a lot about what a black man can be.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Well, and I think that scene also shows like the code in the community, because when you look somebody in the eye and say, "Don't do this," there's almost an understanding, a code that he's just gonna say yes, okay.
Yeah.
Right.
I love that.
And the fact that Ronnie doesn't lie in that moment either.
Yeah, that was big.
Well, speaking of Ronnie, how you see him in the first couple episodes? Oh,
Oh, what'd you
I
say?
said Jerica did hurt my heart that day. What are you doing? I got enough problems in my own hood. Why would you bring the light skinned cat? It was a little pain going on.
Oh my God. Well, we also were trying to say like, it was a little, y'all a little Whitney Bobby Brown, like, she went and found like Eddie or something. It was like, here we go. This is what they expect, but y'all, if y'all didn't see last night, things all work themselves out. But Yeah.
They definitely did.
Yes. Shut up.
Well, I love all I love all season. You've kind of seen these turning points for characters, and what we're gonna watch next is, if you watched Ronnie the first couple episodes, and then where he gets to in this next scene, it's really powerful. So let's watch, and then we'll talk about it.
No, I just think it's really powerful. Thanks, Raj, for that work you did.
Thank you for letting me be a part of it.
Look, that's a community that has a really strong presence in Chicago, and I would be remiss if we didn't have some sort of place in our show, because I think there's this idea that when Black folks are hurting, they always go into a church. And sometimes churches look different, and sometimes grace doesn't have the same name, you know what I mean? But it's all, I think, equal and fair and worthy. So I just thought it was really important to see, again, man, this vulnerability in Black men that we just don't see, and Black men helping each other, leaning on each other, sharing. I thought it was important for Rash's character to share his own burden in order for Ronnie to feel safe, in order for Ronnie to feel like he could break open, really. And I think Common does a beautiful job in that scene, and I think it's also, to me, it's one of the most powerful scenes of the show, and really important to Ronnie's character development. We knew early on we wanted to do something that way because we'd also just been hearing from guys and telling us their stories about how they went straight, like things that have helped them, and our lives. One thing that sort of really kept coming up. And so we really want to show that and be respectful, but also try to be as accurate as possible. And again, not pull any punches. I think that's our mission, is just to really let the camera linger. When you're sitting in editing bays, there are moments where you want to cut away, you want to get out of it. But I think, we learned that lesson from the great Steve McQueen, who, when you look at 12 Years a Slave, there's scenes where he doesn't cut out. He just kind of makes you sit in it. And I feel like that's what we wanted to do with this scene, because we had been watching Ronnie escape, and then finally he's sort of forced to look at himself by looking at another Black man, which I think is really powerful.
Yeah, and growing up in Chicago, as Lena and I have, it's a portion of street organizations, gang culture, that has some Islamic base to it too, to be honest. And but I grew up around some friends who they family were raised Muslim, but they still was gangster, but they still like made salat too. And it was like a real dichotomy or balance, or that was kind of strange, but it was beautiful in a way, because it just really depicted like just what we go through as human beings, as Black people. Like they really, truly, and in fact, one of my good friends who I lost, when they buried him, he had a Muslim like burial, and it just was like, he looked like an angel. It was beautiful. And obviously it was a painful situation. I felt like, when I watched that scene, it felt like you could see the beauty and the pain in these Black men. And, a lot of, as Lena said, a lot of people find their peace through spiritual practice. And Islam is something that's strong that many people, you've seen it in different things where people find their salvation through Islam from being in prison. And my character obviously had that type of element to him, but I think it's beautiful, like as Lena said, that we can just show the vulnerability of two Black men. And there was some strength in the way my character was approaching him, like, yo, let's be honest, let's be real, and I'm gonna tell you who I am too. So this is letting you know to be open. You could be as open as you want to with me, because I'm gonna be here for you, but I want the truth. And I think that's what that scene had in it. And once again, thank you for letting me be a part of it. Not only as a producer, but as an actor, to be able to be in it is a gift. So thank you.
Yeah, I want to say honestly too, like when I did Straight Outta Compton, for instance, people were like, "Where did you find the pain?" You know what I mean? And so many times, like, people can take that pain and relate it directly to their life. So, Lena, I really gotta say, like, with the writing, that's exactly what you did with this. You know what I mean? Like, you couldn't have hit the nail no harder. You know what I mean? Because it's like things that make us connect, we try to shoo away from. You know what I mean? And to see that with black men is super dope, you know? But like at the beginning of my acting career, it was about to be over before it even started because I was already getting myself in trouble that I shouldn't have been getting myself into. You know what I mean? And to have that weighing on me is the thing that I could give to the world and be able to help them connect with me. You know what I mean? And that's what you did, like with the writing. And it's amazing to watch. It's amazing to watch. This was, to me, the most powerful scene of the show that I've seen so far. And hands down, man, y'all killed it.
Yeah, and it was dope for me as an actor to watch my castmate. Me and Ntade went to go see Louis Farrakhan speak at a mosque.
Speak on it.
And it was just dope to see him, how he was just watching him and watching the space he was in, because this was actually before I even knew you guys are gonna do a scene together. And I was like, so now thinking about it, being with him that day and being able to meet Farrakhan and see him interact with him and see him jump into, you know, character and really just study what he was going through. It just shows that just Ntade is just a really smart actor, you know, and it was dope for me being a younger actor, just watching how he went about that. So it was beautiful to just watch that scene. It was crazy.
We definitely did our research, and also too, that's the other thing is like just to force audiences and people and society to redefine these terms. Like technically, in that scene are two killers. Technically, but you see beyond their actions and their history and their past, because in essence they feel like two angels in a room talking. So I think I'm just trying to really push the narrative that, you know, that, or kind of dispel this sort of these myths about us, even in the midst of the truths. Like they're owning their truth in that scene, and I think that's what makes them noble. So yeah.
Guys, we have a couple minutes for some audience questions if you want to start lining up at the mic. Common, how many times did you guys do that scene? Because was it quick or did you have to do it several times?
I think we did it maybe about 4 or 5 times. And Tari was, man, he was incredible. I love, man, just being present in the scene, and that's what he allowed it to be. So we did it, you know, maybe about 4 or 5 takes, you know.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
That's great.
Thanks.
All right, first question, what's your name?
It's Rashida. Hey.
I'm Rashid. What's up?
I know, I saw that. Hey. So, Lena, recently you paid it forward by offering to read scripts from the Blacklist who had an 8 and above. Thank you for that, for paying it forward for that.
Of course. Get your scripts up there if you haven't already.
Right, I was going to say, how long is that offer open?
It's all open, man. It's
okay,
open.
It's ongoing.
Yeah.
Cool.
If you send us an evaluation that has 8 or above, and make sure we can see so we can like check it. Like we're going to take a look at all of these. The evaluations make it very easy for us because they let us know what the log line is, how many pages, budget level. Then you know that too, which is also cool. Mm-hmm. Talk about what's working in the script, what's not working in the script, and then they give you the overall ratings. And if you get an overall 8 or above, hit us. And if you don't worry, we got something coming so we can get people links to classes. If you don't live in LA, we got some links that we really trust and we really like. And we also trying to team up with some of these places. You know, that master class that they do with like Shonda, we're trying to get them to also pair with us. We can get scholarships for folks so people can actually go learn how to do it. So
That's
stay tuned. If you get below an 8, don't beat yourself up too much. We got something coming in a few weeks where we'll get a chance to let y'all get your evaluations, and then we're going to talk to you about how you can get your score up.
Got you. Oh, the other part of that question.
Cool.
How important has people paying it forward for you been to your career and getting you where you are? And is that a reason why you feel the need to do that too for other Black voices and people of color so that they can get their stories told too?
I don't know if anyone's ever done this, the thing that I'm doing. I definitely think I'm sort of starting a blueprint in terms, but I love leading by example, because I think if I can just find that one script that ends up being the next Get Out or Moonlight and this thing, I think what's going to happen is you're going to hear a lot more other folks being like, hey, so we reading scripts too. So, so I think I'm trying to, trying to find a diamond in the rough But but I think I was very lucky. Like I got to work for people that were doing what I love to do. Like I was Mara Brockett-Keel's writer's assistant on The Game. I was Gina Prince Bythewood's personal assistant for 2 years. She did Love and Basketball and Secret Life of Bees. And then I worked as Ava DuVernay's assistant on her first film. Yeah. So I was very blessed to work for these really amazing women. I sort of like pick and pull from like the things that they did. I was like, okay, I want to be like that. I want to do that. So they just kind of were my mentors by default. They didn't even like choose to be. I was watching them, paying attention. And then for me, as I get older, I'm very mechanical. I'm like, okay, mentorship is not just, oh, let me get you a job. It's more about what do you want to do? Because a lot of folks will have, say, 5 things. And I always tell them, like, pick one out of those 5. Conquer one thing first. Because if you say, I want to be a writer, director, that's all cool. And I think people look at me and go, well, you're doing all those things. I'm like, but I'm a television writer at the end of the day. Yeah, I may be like, Ready Player One, all that kind of stuff. But at the end of the day, it started from there. And me doing that well and me conquering that world helped expand other things. So I always try to talk to the people. I always ask my mentees more questions than they ask me. I'm like, what are you trying to do? What's your goal in a year? What's your goal in 5 years? What have you been doing in 10? And then from there, based on what they say to me, that helps me help them. You know what I'm saying?
Thank you.
Thank you. Next question.
Hey guys, thank you so much for representing the colors of our city well.
Oh, thank you, bro.
People
I
think you
appreciate
just
that.
walk down State Street and get shot. Oh.
I know, man. It's crazy.
But my question, Lena, my first is a 2-part question for both of them. My first question is, Lena and Common, if you were in on the casting process, how did you know when you had the right people? That's what I want to know from you. And Jason, what I want to know, man, I know you're from New Orleans, and that's so different because I went to Dillard University, even though I'm from Chicago. And it's like, how did you do your character work, man? Because that's different because it's believable to me. And I didn't see anything that was kind of off, so I want to know what that process was like. I didn't. I mean, when I lived in both cities.
I know. I'll start. I mean, well, Carmen Cuba is our casting director, and she's phenomenal, and she is great. And I think the thing is, like, the truth is, you never know if it's the right part. All you could do is go with your gut. And so I looked at Jason's tape, looked at Jacob, and all these cats, and I was just like, yeah, I just kind of was like, I think this person is it. You taking a bet on them, they're betting on you, and I feel, based on what we're seeing every week, I think we made the right decision.
Yeah, and I mean, the gut, man, I'm telling you, gut is the most important thing you got as an artist and as a human being. Like, really, it's just because so many people will tell you these things, tell you those things, but it's like when something is there. And, Carmen Cuba is incredible. When Lena's saying something is dope, you kind of you want to trust. Part of trusting in your gut is teaming up with people are at that level, and it's going to raise your level too. So the people that we had, from Carmen casting to Lena giving a yes, I mean, when I saw Jason, I was like, when I first saw him do Eazy-E, I was like, this dude is ridiculous. I was up to him like, yo, he should have a Best Actor nomination. That's what I was really feeling like, to be honest. But, all that'll come in due time.
They owe Jason an Oscar.
Yeah. Yeah, that was incredible. So, I mean, basically to answer your question is instinct. And Jason, I guess he had a question for you.
Yeah, for me, I think just being humble, you know what I'm saying, was the thing for me. Because I know if I've never been to Chicago and I have never experienced it like that, the first thing I need to do is go to Chicago and experience it like that. You know what I mean? So true enough, production might not help me with it, but I'm in the hood with it. I'm creeping around. I'm trying to see. You know what I mean? I want some Harold's. Let me see what it's like. You know what I mean? Because it's the small nuances for me. You know what I mean? Man, let's go to this party. Let's come on, G, get in the car. You know what I mean? It's the smallest little things that you're like, that you get the respect from. You know what I mean? Because I realize if I fuck this up, I might as well just not go back to Chicago. That's out. You know what I mean? Scratch that off my bucket list. But I have such a humbleness about things that I don't know. You know what I mean? And I'm not afraid to go find out. So, I'm still looking around Chicago. You know what I mean? To try to find something better for season 2.
Yeah. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you. We got time for one more question.
Can we squeeze 2 more in?
We can do 2 more.
2 more. Y'all two gotta make it great.
This kind of decent.
Ask that question.
Yeah.
Hi. So the last 5 to 8 years, I've been following the Chicago film and theater scene, and I've been amazed by how you guys foster and incorporate each other in collaboration. And as an awesome filmmaker, I'm envious a little bit, so I kind of want to know, what is if you have an advice for us filmmakers, how do we get to the same level as collaboration, like the kind of I'm sorry, I'm really nervous. No, but yeah, simplify it. How do we collaborate the way you guys have successfully?
Well, I mean, I think it has to be organic. You know what I mean? It's like a lot of people I collab, like Justin Simeon is a close friend of mine. He's actually about to direct my pilot. It's gonna be over at TBS called 20. So like, but thank you. Yeah, I'm excited. Hopefully we can get that series order. But I, you know, in our writers group, funny enough, I was working on 20s. He was working on Dear White People, and that was like in 2007. So, you know, and here we are. He's his second season, I think, is going to drop, you know, this summer. And, you know, I got to be in that. So I think it's like, you know, and then also those actors that you see and then also people that I just sort of gotten to come up with, you know, like Donald Glover is someone who I really respect and love. And I think it's just a matter of like, you know, it's like you got to have an eye for talent, so that way you can go be around those talented people and they will, you know, push you to be better and stronger. I think that's really the mission, like have an eye for somebody that's doing something dope and then try to go sit next to them.
Can I throw something in there? Because I tell this story all the time, but Lena knows, right? When I first met her, it was like for AFI Awards or something like that, just in passing.
Master of None was being honored, and so was Shredder Compton.
Right, and for me, I didn't know who Lena was at the time. I just knew I liked her outfit, and I'm like, "You shy? So do you mind if we get a picture? You know what I mean? Like, and we can do the introduction after that part."
I knew who he was. I was like, "You're killing it right now. You're awesome."
But I think by us just choosing to admire the best in each other in that moment, it brought us to a moment where we was holding hands and we was like, we gonna work together one day.
We did.
Let's speak it into existence right now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So we kept God in the midst of it too. You know what I mean? And while big up in each other. And that a lot of times put me in good company. I can't speak for everybody, but I mean, look at it.
No,
now.
yeah, it's
You know
real.
what I mean? Like to say where we at now, to say we started that's fire.
Yeah.
That's a great
That's
point.
all right.
And to say what Jason's saying that's a beautiful point. Like you want to get around people who sharing your vision, and like they, you know, they got the ethics and integrity you have too. She said 2 more people. So hey, that's it. Oh yeah, he had to sit down. No, I no, you good? Yeah. Second, he good? Okay. All right. I ain't
Hopefully that was
everybody.
helpful.
Okay.
Thank you.
But sis, yeah, it's like you get around people that sharing that vision, and what Jason said is important, man. God loving people is good because you know they're gonna treat human beings right. No matter how dope you are, if you're an asshole, people eventually don't want to work with you, and it's going to somewhere come down the line where they're gonna make a choice. He's super talented, she's talented, but they don't bring good energy around the place. So try to connect yourself with people not only that are talented, but are bringing good energy, and be happy for those people that are even beyond where you want to be. Support them, because it's easy to be like you say. I mean, we all see people doing stuff, we wish we could do it, but when you start sending them love, you starting to see yourself in that place. And that's one of the best things we can do instead of being like, why that person got the role? I deserve the role. So
It's too easy to be a hater.
Yeah. Thank you. All right, last question.
All right, I just want to ask about the music from the series. I know a lot of artists that are in there like are not mainstream artists. I've worked with several of the artists that are part of like the music that you've done. A lot of the hip hop artists like Aaron Cohen, a couple kids from Milwaukee that I know that I've toured with and done stuff with. So what made you decide to go with like real underground rap? Like I've been listening to comments since like Can I Borrow a Dollar and like way back.
Dope.
wow, that's man, you was just born when that came out, man.
Literally, I'm not even kidding. Like I grew up in a very small town in the Southwest.
So you was like, 3 years old listening to that?
I was probably like 9. And it was like me and a group of 3 other people that used to check like the back of the Source and Unsigned Hype. And we're the only guys in farming town. But I tour and hip hop changed my life.
Okay, you shut me up. You listen.
but no. So you guys, you reached out to a lot of artists that I work with. I've toured with. I've done a lot of cool stuff with, and they're not even doing like 300 people rooms. These guys are like doing small tours, but they're on this big show and have received a lot of clout from it. What made you decide to go with like real underground rappers versus pop rappers?
Right. Well, I mean, I think one, we had a phenomenal music supervisor named Barry Cole, which hopefully we'll get him back season 2. He did a lot with very little. And so I think my mission was, and I said this very early on, not just to him, but to Showtime and the studio, and obviously Common and his team, I was like, I want to give people some shine. You know, I want to, and also too, I was like, I want the music to make sense for the scene and to make sense for the vibe, and that may not necessarily mean a big artist. And like I want, you know, and also too, the thing about Chicago is we have a very unique sound. It's very soulful, but very like there's a lot of bass and there's a lot of grit to the music. But there's also the southernness to it all, because a lot of us are part of the Great Migration. A lot of us, our grandparents came from the South, set up shop in Chicago and stayed. So that's where we sort of have like that, you know, that country sort of like feel to us as well. So there's just a rich history with the music. I mean, Donny Hathaway is from Chicago. I mean, you know, Sam Cooke, Quincy Jones is from Chicago. So we've birthed a lot of these, you know, these amazing musicians that have really laid a blueprint for a lot of these artists. So I was like, it needs to feel like Chicago. So I was really grateful to the network for allowing that. But then also we mixed it up. We didn't want to make people be completely always looking for Spotify. So Chance came through, you know, obviously No Name, Common got some stuff in there. So we wanted to mix it up with some Chicago artists, with the popular people that you know, but we also wanted to sneak some stuff in that you hadn't heard before. That's just always my vibe. I like discovering music while watching stuff versus always going like, oh yeah, I know that song. So I'm just really grateful that everybody got on board with that vision, and people really seem to respond to it and like it, and I love it. And we'll probably get some more discount season 2 because the show's doing well. But I still want to keep that energy of like these young artists that got some stuff that, you know, they trying to get their thing on, you know, like trying to get some streams. We'll try to hook them up. Yeah.
I want to add a little bit to it. It really brings you into the city too.
Jay could be singing too.
Yeah, I'll be singing a little bit. But it's like,
Jacob, we gotta get you one of your joints in there.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying.
We got you.
I got something for you. I got something for you.
We got you.
We gonna talk after. We gonna talk after.
Something sexy like.
But yeah, it brings you into the city. Like I know, even in Milwaukee, there's some artists locally just hot in the city that you may not ever hear if you're from New York or Atlanta. Like you just may never hear them. But I know them because, you know, I'm from there, and then I'll go back to Atlanta, like, y'all gotta mess with these artists. So it really bring you into the city because, like, I'll go to the West Coast and hear just artists I've never heard before, and then just everybody's not on the radio. You know, we're in the internet place now, so it's like, you know, they can be selling out 300 venues that just small and just packing them out without being on the radio, just Twitter and Instagram. So, and it allows you to, you know, just open your ears to new kind of music as well. So I thought that was extremely dope because it's bringing you to Chicago. We're in Chicago, so it's dope. It's dope.
Yeah.
Cool. Thank you.
Well, you guys remember the season finale is this coming Sunday on
Yeah,
Showtime.
we
Don't miss it.
Very exciting.
Some
Thanks
shit's
everybody
about
for
to go
coming.
down.
Thank you all.
Reruns.
Bless.